It on. Know you wish you were my leave. I cheat through the river with Judas. Tearing down the barrel of his gun. Yes, he shot me down. I died and someone brought me back to life, but never to my senses. Bounce on that shit, can bounce on that shit, can.
Oh, I could have did this as a video. You know what, y'all? I'm going to end this. We're going to do it as a video. Because I don't feel like waiting till people come in because I wish I had the recorded thing. Oh, well, anybody come in, come in. What's up, y'all? This is Creepy Story Time. I'm going to clean my face. So we're going to do like a reaction to a video. And to let y'all know, this is what I'm using. Wait. Is it showing? Okay. I'm going to wipe my face. And I'm going to play. I'm just going to weed something out just to give an idea. If you have sensitive skin, please do not use this. Use glue. This is $10. Use glue. Please, 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 in the life of Jesus, do not use this. I wish I could change it to where. But we're going to play a video.
Welcome back, YouTube. And for those who do not know me, hello, my name is Noah, and on this channel we talk about death, true crimes, haunted people, places, and things, spiritual reparations, and how you can fuck around and find out. If you are not subscribed, bestie, go ahead and subscribe now. Turn the notification bell on, and if you're not following me over on TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook, follow me there as well. On today's episode, we will be watching a viral TikTok of a woman explaining how a soul collector, the Grim Reaper, Death, came to collect her partner. When I tell you her story had me stressed out, I was stressed because this happens a lot more than you think. And we'll explain that after the video. Y'all make sure y'all give this creator a follow if you're into spooky story times. Just listen to what she says.
A few weeks before my daughter's father passed away, I got a visit from none other than a soul collector. So Mike wanted to go out that night, right? I came home off a 12-hour shift and he wanted to go out, and I was like, you go out, I'm fucking staying home. You're like, you sure? I'm like, I'm very fucking sure you could go, I can go out because I need to fucking sleep. It was probably like 12 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning when I wake up because I could hear, I'm a very light sleeper. I wake up hearing movement downstairs. We lived in a 2-floor apartment, which was beautiful. It had a loft style upstairs, and so it was very open. And then downstairs, the kitchen, and then we had like an extra bedroom. It was beautiful. So I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
You don't have to use foundation. Okay? You do not have to use it. I'm using it just for me.
I'm down there. I start screaming, Mike, nothing. So I go down to look over this little balcony area that we had towards the room, like as the loft. And I look out and I don't see anything, but it's dark. And I'm like, okay, let me flick on this little hallway light. I start yelling, Mike, nothing. In our room, in front of the bed, I had the TV on low and it was on. So I turned it off, and there's a carpet in front of the bed that the piece of wood, it was all wood. The piece of wood, if you stepped on it, would hit the carpet and make a sound. So I go back to bed and I'm like, okay, well, I must be hearing shit. At this point now, I really can't sleep because I'm like alert, like there's some movement downstairs. And I keep tossing and turning, and as I move over to the right, I could hear again movement. Now this time it's the stairs. I hear someone walking up the stairs. I'm like, oh my fucking God. So I stand up, and the way you looked in the room, like to look out, I could stand in front of like our doorway, but we didn't have a door. And it was like a mini hallway, and you can look out into the apartment. So I'm standing there and I'm looking out and I'm like, there's gotta be something there. Nothing was there, but I could still hear footsteps. So my crazy ass, I don't even know how the fuck I did this, walks over a little bit to look into the staircase and there's no one. I'm like, okay, so this is a spirit that is clearly here to make a visit. I go back to bed. This time I am sure it's a spirit. I'm gonna fucking cover me because I'm a little bit nervous. Like something is uneasy about this particular spirit. It just gave me fear. Covered from head to toe, bitch. I was nervous, but I could see through the blanket. So I'm like, okay, I hear what sounded like the biggest steps. It was just so large. Doom, doom, slowly. And I'm like, is this fucking really happening right now?
Yeah, it's happening, girl.
I hear this thing coming slowly and I hear it breathing.
Oh, no.
The breathing was like of a very like out of breath person. Like that. And I'm like, fuck.
Now for the face that's going to be free, you can use any eyeshadow if you would like, but you don't have to.
No, bitch. I was so terrified at this point. I am praying and I could hear it coming into the room. At this point, I open my eyes and I see this huge silhouette. It was the biggest, like, I can't even, it had to be like 7 feet tall, very wide. No real shape. It was almost like a blob, but it was big, but it had like structure. I can't even explain it. This thing literally walks towards me on the bed and sniffs me. And I was like, holy fuck. Oh my God. Like I was so frozen and shaking. And I'm like, why is he sniffing me? What is this thing? It was sniffing me. It was all in my face. The blanket was covered from head to toe. It was all in my face. And after it sniffed me, it realized it wasn't for me. That's when I realized.
Can I say something? I would be self-conscious if anything sniffing me. And I'm probably thinking, oh, I hope my breath don't stink. I'm so unserious. I hope my breath don't stink. Because why are you sniffing? But y'all understand what she's saying, but I would be self-conscious. I'm sorry.
What the fuck is this thing? When it did that, in that moment, I realized it didn't want me. Nope. It got up as if it was like, okay, this is not who I was looking for. Walked around, and that's how I knew I wasn't crazy, because I was thinking maybe I'm delusional and I'm dreaming this shit. No, when it walked in front of the bed, I heard that pop sound. I was like, oh fuck, it's real. This thing is real and it's really here, and don't take the blanket off your fucking head. But I could see through the blanket. So as it goes around the bed, it sniffs the side of my man at the time, Mike's side of the bed. Sniffed it, looked around, and realized he's not here. And that's when I realized this thing was for Mike, and it was looking for him.
Mike.
Once it sniffed that side of the bed and realized he was not there, it stood up, walked past the bed, left out the front door, basically, because you could hear it going down the steps and then disappear. I was so mortified in fear. I couldn't even describe what was happening. All I knew was I'm going to sleep this off because this is absolutely insane. A few weeks later is when he passed away. And that's when I realized, I think this was the Grim Reaper or some sort of soul collector coming to pick him up. Even he had a very strange event happen to him the day he died. He could feel someone or some people watching him. It was the weirdest thing. And I remember waking up to him staring at me and just telling me, you know, when I woke up, I was like, why are you watching me? And he was like, I just want to remember your face forever. I told him, I don't like you talking like that because that, you know, you're freaking me out, because we were both very spiritual. And a few hours later, he had passed away. He had drowned. So looking back at it, I was like, wow, it's crazy how when you are very spiritually inclined, you can get a pre-warning, and that thing that came that night was definitely a pre-warning.
What really stressed me out is the fact that this being came and sniffed her.
Right. That's the
Because since
stressful
when death start
part.
doing that? This happens so often, you guys, especially in nursing homes, hospice facilities. A lot of the elderly's family report seeing black figures in
Mm-hmm.
the room coming to
Yeah.
collect. And as normalized as these stories have become, it makes me think, how did this person live their life if they are met by a black shadowy figure and not their ancestors? What spiritual reparations is owed? Because
She took the words right out my mouth because I was sitting here thinking to myself, what all Mike was into, honey? What all he was into? Because what did he do? What did he do that night that he went out? And people don't think about that. All right, y'all. I'm finna put this glue on my face. Please pay attention. I'm gonna show you how to do the paper towel. Now, if you have paper towels, tissue, cotton balls, you're gonna see what we're doing. Okay, just relax,
a lot
Hopefully,
of
you can
these
see me in
people
this
that
kind of
I've
glare.
heard these type of stories from, especially the elders, it's usually death coming to get some of the nastiest people on earth. The racists, the bigots, the ones that used to hang out with the clans, the ones that were with the lynching, the ones that see not only a dark figure of death, Grim Reaper, Soul Collector, they're also seeing the people that they murdered 50 years ago. So I'm just wondering, how do people live their lives who seemingly are normal people, but then we have this kind of story? What y'all be out here doing? I was going through the comments of this video and I read a lot of unhinged stories. I'm thinking about, because every time I share these videos with you guys, I read the comments and the comments be having the scariest shit. Some of the comments be more scarier than the actual video. If y'all want me to do like a video on just me reading these comments, comment down below. Additionally, people in the comments said that it could have been the angel of death, archangel of death, Azrael. And then other people was like, hell no, that's not. Nope, nope, nope. I don't have any knowledge on the archangel of death, so I can't really say. But what I can say is that this is a phenomenon that happens, and I hear more about it from people that were horrible people in life. Like, you're not meeting your ancestors. You gonna go ahead and pay them spiritual reparations. You're not resting in peace the way you're supposed to because you didn't live a peaceful life. You didn't live a life full of ashe or kindness or any of that. But I want y'all opinion. Have you ever heard of this outside of me telling you about it? And have you had any experiences with loved ones who were passing and you seen a black figure of the nature? Because I'm going to put right here what she said it looked like, the best way that she can describe it. Because I hope this is not what's coming for me whenever I pass
Right.
or you pass, especially if you got good Iwapele. I hope that's not what we got to look forward to. Either way, I want to hear your stories. If you have similar stories, comment them down below. And until next time,
Oh,
y'all
that's
do good,
it?
be good,
Oh, come
stay
on,
safe.
Black Concrete.
And if you would
You
like
need
me to
some.
cover any topic, send me an email or comment it down below. Love y'all down.
For Carlos King now. All right, we finna go to another story. Give me a minute. Let me try to clear out my space. I'm trying to do this for the go. It. Dry on my face. So this is an hour compilation. Y'all can watch this with me. I'm gonna try to put some of my stuff on my face, but it's trying to dry out.
So last night I picked up at the hospital. I had this patient that was having a little bit of a hard time. Um, so she pretty much was having a hard time getting to sleep. And so I was taking my vitals again at the end of the shift, and I'm zipping and ripping and running around. And so I get to her room and she looks at me and she was just like, "Did you walk in here?" about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning? I was like, no. She's like, was there a sitter? Like, did the nurse come in here? I was like, no, you don't have a sitter. You don't need one. Your anal time is 4. I was like, so you didn't need one. So then she was just like, so who came in here? I was like, nobody came in here. She's like, I'm not crazy, okay? So listen. I was like, okay. She was like, I was about to go to the bathroom about 4 o'clock in the morning. I said, okay. She was like, there was somebody sitting in the corner of my room. And she was like, and when I was about to get up to go to the bathroom, I heard something in my head say, come with me. I was like, okay. I said, now, this what we not going to do. She's like, what? I said, we not going to go with them. So if they tell you that again, I'm going to need you to say no. Say hell no.
Never accept jewelries from strangers. And after you hear this story, maybe I might convince you. So we're gonna call the person who submitted this story Joelle. This happened to her in Cap Haitien. So Joelle usually goes back and stays in Haiti during the summer. And what ended up happening to her was horrifying, to say the least. So in Cap Haitien, she's shopping at this local market when this old woman stopped her. She had on this head wrap that nearly covered her eyes and like this weird raspy voice. She walked up to Joelle, grabbed her hand and said, "You have a kind heart. Let me give you something." Before Joelle could even respond, the woman slid a delicate gold ring onto her finger. And she said it had a deep red stone, almost like the color of dried blood. Joelle tried to take it off to get a closer look, but the woman whispered, "It chooses you." And then she walked off and just vanished into the crowd, just like that. So Joelle didn't think anything of it, just kept going about her day. That night, Joelle started having vivid dreams of a woman crying underwater. This dream just kept reoccurring, and each night the woman got closer. Her skin was pale, her eyes wide open, her mouth was full of what looked like seaweed, and every time Joelle would wake up gasping for air as if she had been drowning. Then things got worse. Mirrors around her started to crack when she passed. Her plants that she had in that house withered. The family dog just started acting weird. This dog wouldn't go near Joelle, not even when she had food. Now, Joelle says she wouldn't have suspected anything. But the weird thing was, every morning that she woke up, it seemed like that ring on her finger, the innocent little delicate ring, was getting tighter by the day. And it was getting so tight, at some point it looked like her fingers started swelling up. So she tried to cut it off. When she tried, she heard a whisper in her ear saying, "You belong to me now." And accepting this little ring went on to cost Joelle so much of her life that seriously, you couldn't even predict what happened next. If you want to hear more about Joelle's hauntings, how she was able to successfully get rid of this ring and whatever energies came with it, you're gonna have to comment part 2. I might actually just drop part 2 on my YouTube channel before I drop it on here. So make sure you're subscribed to my YouTube channel. And follow me on Instagram just so that I know that it's real. And if you're wondering about my hair in these curls, Tamish Beauty. Okay, I'll see you guys in part 2.
The scary side of New Orleans story time. Jesse and Chris finally saved up enough money to go on their first vacation. Their dream was to go to New Orleans. So they get there. Jesse wants to do some sightseeing. She goes to Bourbon Street, but she also knew New Orleans is known for their graveyards. They have beautiful scenery and historic graves. So she goes to one that has public access. Before Jesse knows it, it's already almost dark.
Don't put this in your eye. You're going to burn your eye. That's why I'm going around.
The sun's setting, and it's getting darker. The whole mood is changing. It gets to this real tall monument, and 3 men pop out from behind it. All 3 start smiling at her. One says, "Give me your bag." Another says, "Get on your knees." The third one walked behind her and put her hands behind her back. As the first one is digging through her purse, she sees something moving out the corner of her eye. As the third one is attempting to tie her wrist, an elderly woman comes from behind another gravestone. Jesse said it was like she just appeared out of nowhere. She had long dreads, bracelets covering both her arms, a necklace with a huge emblem. One eye is white, the other eye is solid black. Her dress was made out of burlap. She had burlap wrapped around her feet for shoes. The older lady approaches them smiling. So at first Jesse didn't know if she was with them or not, until the elderly lady said, "Leave her be." The man holding her wrist said, "What are you going to do about it, Grandma?" And the elderly lady looked down and then looked back up, and her eyes had switched colors. The woman said, "Well, let's find out. Run." All 3 men started running. Jesse said one tripped and slammed his head on a gravestone, split like a watermelon. That scared the other 2 men so bad that one fell out clutching his chest. The other man kept running. The old woman said, "You have no idea what they were about to do to you. You need to get out of here before dark." Jesse said, "Thank you so much. Is there anything that I can do for you? You just saved my life." The old woman said, "Get out of here. It's almost dark. And there are things out here a lot worse than those 3. Jesse grabbed her purse and stood up. She began to turn around and walk away. The old woman said, "What don't you understand? Get out of here now. Run." So Jessie took off running until she got to her car. She got in her vehicle, crunk it up, and while she turned around, she glanced up at the graveyard, and she said she saw over 1,000 different people. Nothing but black and white eyes all throughout the graveyard. So she sped back to her hotel room where her husband was, and she told him all about it. He said that's so crazy, because while he was walking down Bourbon Street, this older man of African descent came up to him. The elderly man said, "Your soulmate is in danger. You need to find her right now." He said, "That's why you have like 50 missed calls from me." Jessie cut her cell phone back on, and there were about 50 missed calls from her husband, and tons of texts of him asking where she was. They done some research and found out New Orleans is known for their protective spirits. Some call them guardian angels, protectors. I want to thank Jessie for sending her story in. I really enjoyed it.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely.
So I had a Ouija board in college and did some really bad things. Didn't say goodbye properly, played in a cemetery, slept with it underneath my bed. It ended up needing my house to get a priest. Here's the story.
Sometimes my plants would move like that, and nothing was on, no AC, no window, nothing. Goosebumps. Things would move around my room.
Those videos you saw were because the board was in my room underneath my bed. This led to really bad nightmares, to my room smelling like rotten meat, to doors being slammed, to plants flying everywhere. It was just really bad. It got to the point where I needed an exorcist to the house, and I needed to provide proof for the Vatican. The Vatican. Yeah, that was a good time. Ended up having a brain injury throughout all of that happening. You could check out my channel for that. And then ended up having to be back at my house, and hauntings were still occurring. And then I found out I was pregnant, and I got my house blessed beforehand. But yeah, it was not good at all. My friends would come in, and not even knowing that there was a Ouija board underneath my bed, they would come in and be like, "I don't feel a good vibe in here." Like, some of them would even like be sitting on my bed and they'd see the door slam shut. Or like, I remember one time I had a girlfriend over and my crucifix in my room just fell to the floor. Just like crazy things like that. Got to the point where my girlfriend got possessed when we were playing. Now, we didn't know at the time how bad it was and how dangerous it was. We were younger.
I don't bother.
You know, now I'm a mom, so I would never do that. I would never let my kid do that. But I didn't know any better. And so we were playing, and this was like one of those times where we were playing for hours. And one of the girls like suffered from, you know, like depression, and was definitely the most, unfortunately, like the most vulnerable. And that's when demons like to attack, her, the most vulnerable one of the group. And started spelling out her name on the board, and started spelling out her neck. Whose neck? We were asking whose neck, and they'd spell out her name, and they kept saying for us to look in the mirror. So they would like type mirror, 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 and it was like really creepy. And then it got to the point where she like could not breathe, and she was literally like couldn't breathe. And the craziest thing about this was that I knew something was wrong. Is I loved those 2 girls that I was with very much. They were like sisters.
Y'all see how this is dry? This is dry. Yeah. But y'all gonna see what I'm gonna do next. So if you're watching, just stay. It's a lot of work
to me. And when I saw this happening, instead of being like, oh my God.
And yes, I'm using a paintbrush. It's okay. Go get you a soft bristle one because you're going to need it.
God, oh my God, are you okay? The craziest thing happened. Instead, I wanted to slap her. I had anger. I was like, shut up, stop, stop. And I remember saying that and not wanting to say it, but it just coming out of me. It was very weird. But like, I wasn't the one that was like really affected, but she, on the other hand, started really choking and then like got out of it, whatever. And because she was choking or anything, we didn't say goodbye. We stopped. I like moved the board out of the way. I'm like, oh my God, she's choking, right? As anyone would do. And I think that's when it got really bad. And that's when we were like, okay, yeah, we need to get rid of this board, like ASAP. And so we brought it to a park to burn. And mind you, a Ouija board, this one was like the ones from Spirit Halloween, onto the ground. Now, I want to point out that look at that raw crystal, the big one, it's not even moved. I literally put it down in the exact spot, and none of the other crystals are moved. They're all in the exact same spot. I was that board, and I covered it in lighter fluid, and it took 2.5 hours to burn. 2.5 hours to burn. Yeah, it was, I get chills. Yeah, it was really not cool. I have a lot more in-depth stories about things that happened to me while the board was underneath my bed, like scary stories that were super creepy, like, and things like that. So let me know if you want more of those. But yeah, that's my Ouija board story.
Today I'm going to tell you the story of a witch named Harriet Boggs. So it's the 1900s and her story takes us back to the small town of Whispering Pines. Now Whispering Pines is a relatively close-knit community, agricultural, small town, and generally speaking, the town looks out for each other. Now one important thing to note about this town is that it sits on a relatively large creek bed. Now, up the creek about 3 miles as the crow flies is a town called Taylor Creek. Now at this point in time, Taylor Creek was still really underdeveloped. It was heavily wooded, lots of wildlife running around, and not a place you'd want to be caught by yourself, especially after dark. But of course, there are always those people who thrive in these environments, and Harriet Boggs was one of those. Because of Harriet's mysterious ways, her desire to live alone, and her relative reclusiveness, there were a lot of rumors that started to come out about her. Some reports claim that the closer you got to Harriet's homestead, the more uneasy you would start to feel, and it would feel as though you were being followed. In fact, there are other reports that claim seeing cats all over the woods staring at them as though they were being watched. Other accounts would claim that as they got closer to Harriet's house, they would start seeing mysterious fireballs on top of the water. Now, of course, this could have just been methane gas. This is a very natural phenomenon, but people said it happened more than it should have, and it was reported being seen quite a bit. In addition to this, these fireballs appeared to move at will, as though warning whoever was coming nearer to stay away from Harriet's house. The closer they got, the bigger it would grow. Again, not sure how true it is, but it is a little weird.
Get you some tweezers.
Reports include seeing statues in the woods like the one behind me, or hearing an ever-present humming or singing, although there was no one around for miles. Now, as these events started to get more common, these tales started to flow out of Taylor Creek, where Harriet lived, and into the towns around her. So as these tales started to spread, Harriet became a figure of folklore more than anything. Parents would use her stories to get their children to behave, stay out of the woods, listen. But it also became kind of a good campfire tale to tell as well. That was until the flood, though. Now, this was an unprecedented flood, unpredictable, once-in-a-lifetime event. In fact, a once-in-a-100-year event. But because they couldn't justify anything causing this level of devastation and catastrophe, such as living below the water table, they determined that it was only one thing and one thing only: witchcraft. In fact, it wasn't just any old witchcraft, it was Harriet Boggs. And what made it even worse was the fact that the flood didn't just bring devastation, it brought mosquitoes, and mosquitoes brought their own special gift, and that was yellow fever. And as the town started getting sick, people started dying, and of course that made people even more upset. Then to put the cherry on all of the chaos is the fact that the town's only doctor, Dr. Beauregard Jackson, passed away due to the fever, and this left the village utterly devastated. And of course, because this place was utterly devastated, they had suffered extreme loss, they needed a scapegoat. This is where the story takes a dark turn, because in their grief, the men of the town decided that somebody needed to pay, and that somebody was Harriet Boggs. So they decided that they were going to go and get her and string her up. Now, it would be a courtesy if she even made it to the gallows, but we know that wasn't going to happen. But anyways, the men decided they would pursue Harriet, but there was something that stopped them.
And that something was the fact that it was getting dark. According to these men, Harriet had dominion over the dark, and it wouldn't be wise to meet somebody in their element. So they decided they would wait until morning, and then they would go and find Harriet and make her face justice. Now, all that night, the men waited up, anticipating their chance for justice, but they weren't alone. There were howls and cackles outside of the window, cats, weird figures. Everything seemed to be surrounding the town, just a feeling of utter darkness. Now, morning finally came for the men, and as they prepared to go out and exact their revenge, they noticed that there was a black cauldron in the middle of their town square. And as they got closer to it, they noticed there was a note on it that said, "Drink me." Now, of course, nobody wants to drink mysterious liquid from a mysterious cauldron, but desperate times call for desperate measures. So they called every member of the town out, and everybody got a spoonful. And as they were drinking it, they noticed there was a change in the weather. Previously murky and kind of muggy outside, the sky cleared and there was bright sun. So on this very cloudy day, the men called a town meeting, and everyone in the town came out to see what they wanted to talk about. And of course, as they got there, they noticed the cauldron as well. Now, the men instructed them to do one thing, and that was take a drink. So everybody passed the ladle around. Don't worry about any other viruses, just drink the juice. And everybody in the town did so. And miraculously, as they all started to pass the ladle around, the sun started to come. Again, these people had just experienced some massive storms and flooding, so the weather was still pretty bad for them. But like I said, as they started to pass the ladle, the sun came out, things appeared to cool off just a little bit, and you could feel the overall mood in the town just get a little bit lighter. Even better, in a few days, people miraculously started to recover. They gave this juice to everybody in the town who could drink it, and if they couldn't drink it, they would just pour it down their throat. So the nurses at this point were pretty happy. Again, they had even lost their doctors, so things were really starting to look up for this town. Now, at this point, because the men were pretty satisfied with what had happened with the cauldron, they decided they wanted to go and thank. Again, the magic that they accused her of using to kill the town's people and cause the flood was now magic they were happy to have around them and magic they were thankful for. And they weren't crazy, and I will say, given the time, this was a pretty decent move on their end to thank her as opposed to... So the men set out to go find Harriet and give her a sincere thank you. But the funny thing is, as they approached where her house was supposed to be, there was a message on an old tree stump that had fallen. And as they approached the note, the men decided it was probably best to go ahead and turn around. And so they did so. And sadly, Harriet never got their thank you. But that's because on the parchment note they found tacked to the stump, it said, "Don't come looking again." And so they never did. But anyways, let me know if you've heard the story of Harriet Boggs before, and if you would have helped the town or let them perish. And if you can name the work that I'm referencing in this video, you get some cool points.
Want to get creeped out? This is the story of someone who did the 11-mile drive ritual. My favorite paranormal podcast did an episode on paranormal games. One of these games was the 11-mile drive ritual. The motivation is a wish. You know, wish upon a star, wish comes true. But this game seemed a lot darker, like you're risking something. It scared me, but I thought maybe this is just a kid's game, meant to freak teenagers out, and something to laugh about later. I'm not so sure what this game is all about now that I've experienced it myself. To explain the feeling you get when you arrive at the 11-mile road, it doesn't feel like a game. It feels as if you're about to make a sacrifice. It feels like a ritual. Now, I'll explain mile by mile what I experienced on the 11-mile drive. Mile 1. It took me about 15 to 20 minutes of feeling absolutely nothing before all of a sudden I had this overwhelming feeling that I was there. At that point, I was at a sharp turn in the middle of the woods, and I knew that when I turned that corner, that was it. The ritual would start. I did not feel a pull forward. I wanted so badly to turn around, but I just went. I just drove. At first, there was no change, but right as I was coming up into the second mile, the temperature seemed to plummet. I checked the paper I wrote the rules on and turned up my heater. Mile 2. I find myself reaching to turn the heater on full blast. It is cold.
You don't really need foundation for this, but you can use paint. I have paint I'll show you, but you can use paint.
And that's all. It's just cold. Nothing else seemed to be out of order. Mile 3. I see one person walking along the right side of the road with a backpack. This looked to me
Just
like an
make sure it
actual
match your
human,
color.
though the fact that I was traveling along a desolate back road in the middle of nowhere does strike me as odd. However,
Jeez.
this person never looked at my car. He appeared in the rearview mirror and appeared to be playing on his phone. He looked very real and very normal and very unbothered. Besides this, I saw nothing else. Mile 4. This is where got weird for me. I started to really fear the situation for the first time, and as I drove past a small clearing from the trees, I swear I thought I heard a fist hit my window and the sound of someone shouting my name. It was as if it was right outside the window. I have no explanation for this, except for in the case that my imagination was running wild at this point. Either way, I was shaking and involuntarily sped up. I considered turning around, but I just kept driving. Mile 5. Nothing crazy happened during mile 5, actually. It was during mile 5 that I was able to take a breath and calm myself down. Mile 6. Nope. I will never. My headlights shut off a total of 3 times. I slowed down but did not stop. This road was so curvy, and it was the worst time for my headlights to fuck up. The last time they went off, I actually thought they had burned out. They must have been off for at least a minute straight. I barely saw anything, just the yellow double lines, and I went with that. I almost had to stop when I thought I could see someone standing in the middle of the road, but at the last second, my lights came on, and at that same moment, my radio started blasting an AM channel. This is said to happen, but I don't know if I possibly hit a button on my steering wheel. I forgot I wasn't supposed to turn off the radio, and I turned it off. I wonder if this affected the rest of the trip. Mile 7, nothing happens. I just drive and hear something hit my car, an acorn or something, I assume. Mile 8, nothing happens. But I'm scared at this point, and I have tears in my eyes.
If y'all want to know what she's talking about, it's 11 mile. Please don't do this, y'all. Please leave it alone.
Fear is so intense, and I feel as though I'm being intently watched. It felt as if someone was right behind my ear, looking at me and waiting for something. I kept waiting to hear someone start screaming. Mile 9. My car stalls. Yep, it happened. The one thing I thought will not happen. Oh, baby. I close my eyes as tight as I can, as per instruction of the rules. And I am screaming. I keep trying to start my car, and finally it starts and I take off. I don't know if anything else happened. I just start going, screaming the whole time. I didn't see anything, but I swear I heard laughing at some point. In my memory, I can't pinpoint exactly when it was that I heard the laughing. Mile 10, I'm still freaking out. I'm crying, but I don't see or hear anything. I was pretty much just trying really, really hard to convince myself this was all just a coincidence and random, and there was actually nothing to be afraid of. Mile 11, I see a red light, but like a literal traffic light. Still, I close my eyes because I'm honestly not sure if this counts. I keep my eyes closed until I can see the red glow behind my eyelids. I stop, and I only stop because I felt like I was supposed to. When I opened my eyes, I felt like I hadn't experienced any fear, like I hadn't heard or seen anything. I felt fine, if not great. It was so strange. I closed my eyes, made my wish, and as it wasn't a physical thing, I immediately turned my phone on and routed myself home. It's been just about 18 hours since, but I'm still waiting to see what happens. So, was it my imagination? Was it all a coincidence? I don't know. Maybe. I'll let you know if my wish comes true. Let me know what you guys thought of that one, and let me know if you want me to look into if he made any updates on this. Anyways, that's it for this one. See you next time.
He didn't. He never did it again.
This photographer had one of the spookiest experiences in Louisiana. He says, "You ever seen something that shouldn't exist?" I am back with another spooky story. So in 2017, Michael, who's a photographer, was working on a documentary about abandoned places in Louisiana. So he'd been driving down this old highway on Baton Rouge when suddenly his GPS just started going crazy. The signal was flickering in between coordinates that just didn't make sense, and then his car just dies, just like that. And he had no service, no way to call for help, so Michael just started walking. And he says that's when he saw the town. Michael says it wasn't on any map and it definitely shouldn't have been there. He said he saw these small wooden houses. The windows were dark and empty, gas lamps that were flickering, even though there were no power line. Michael says that this whole place just felt wrong. Too quiet, like it was something waiting. Then Michael saw them. The people. He said that they were dressed in old-fashioned clothes, the kind that you'd see in history books. He says long dresses, suspenders, top hats, but their faces were blank. No expressions, just blank. He says these people's facial expressions is giving robotic. So Michael then turns to leave. However, the road that he had just taken was gone. It mysteriously disappeared. And this is when someone approached him and says, "You're not supposed to be here." And as he's looking around, he notices this big mansion. It was this mansion that was sitting at the edge of town that looked like it had been rotting for centuries. The windows were boarded up, but Michael says that he could just feel that there was something inside. And whatever it was watching. Michael says he walks closer to the mansion, and that's when he saw it. He says in the second floor window was his reflection. Michael says his reflection, but not quite. It looks like him, but the eyes were black and his teeth were too sharp, and it was smiling. When suddenly Michael hears a voice saying, "He's waiting for you." I know you guys hate part 2s, but I'm gonna have to because I have to get to work. If you have a spooky story that you want me to tell, feel free to submit it to me on Instagram or TikTok. And before I go, can I just take a brief moment for the lips? Can we admire for a little bit? Oh, this is what I use to line my lips, and you get a variety of different colors too. I was using like the darkest one that they have, like the darkest brown. And as you can see, and for every video, I'm gonna try a new lip liner. I'm gonna just link these in the video just in case you want it. You can just click it and put it in your cart, girl. Anyway, like I said, every single video, I love you, my abducted humans, from your favorite Haitian homegirl.
Put your finger down if you went to get a haircut last year and instead maybe you got a voodoo curse put on you. I recorded this video so many times a year ago, and I had drafts that I don't have anymore, but I never posted it because I was genuinely terrified because of just stupid crazy shit that happened that I was like, if I talk about it, will they come after me? I don't know, but I'm gonna talk about it now because it's been a year and I just remembered that the drafts are gone, and I want people to know. But I won't say where it is unless you guys tell me that I should. But my parents told me at the time that like they could sue me for defamation if I say what happened. So please advise me. So what happened is I've only ever had my hair cut by my mom in my kitchen, and I wanted to get a real haircut because my mom hasn't been a practicing cosmetologist in over like 2 decades. And so my friend sent me this business TikTok and was like, here's an all-inclusive place that seems really friendly and cool for a first haircut. And I was like, awesome, this place looks great. And they're very well known on TikTok and made fun of for certain thing that they do about their all-inclusiveness, okay? They cater specifically to the queer community. And I went and it was great. Like my first appointment was great. I was like, oh my gosh, wow, this is really cool. This is really cool. And then I get home and I look at it because when the haircut was finished, they just had me pay and leave. I like didn't really get a chance to like, and there were some things that were wrong about it. And so I messaged them and I was like, hey, can we get a touch up? And they were like, sure. And I go in and they spend like the entire time being like, I actually did this right. Like you're wrong, but we'll alter it for you, which was fine, I guess. But when I went back, the normal eclectic stuff that they had before, like all the picture frames and stuff up on the wall, was still there, but they had added some Halloween decorations. And when I asked them, hey, did you decorate for Halloween 5 months early? Because it was almost like a year ago today. It was like June 10th, July 10th, I think. And they were like, no. And that's all we talked about it. But when I walked in the room, there was a giant sign that says, abandon hope, all ye who enter. And there was a salt around my chair, and there was salt in front of the mirror in front of me, and on the countertop in front of me, and there was
a mirror behind me that had a giant pentagram covering the entirety of it. There was a pentagram on the floor in front of me, 3 pentagrams in the corner of the mirror in front of me.
You decided to sit your
And
tail
next to
down,
that
girl.
lamp of salt on the
Oh,
countertop
that's true.
was some candles and voodoo doll looking things. There's also a skeleton. I think the skeleton may have been there during the first appointment. I think that might have just been part of their decor.
Okay, so cute thing. You can use this cream makeup, some dollars, some change. Now you can buy this whole thing for $5. I still have mine. You see, I've been using it. And I also have this because I was doing. Who was I doing last year? That was supposed to be what you call a venom, but I couldn't get the teeth right. So I did the best I could. I did the best I could with creativity.
But it ties in, so I really don't know. But so like
you're gonna need some black and some white if you're doing this to make your holes look like flesh. And I'm gonna fill it in all of my white spots.
Appointment was just hate. It was just hate, and I felt so uncomfortable. And then halfway through the appointment, they left to go to the bathroom. Now, in the first appointment, they left to go to the bathroom as soon as I got there, which I thought was odd that they hadn't gone already. But you know, I don't care. You do your thing. But the second appointment was 10 minutes long. So I don't know why they had to leave halfway through, except for the fact that when they left, the music switched from being like pop music or elevator music to the kind of music you would hear in a haunted house where it's like whisper chanting in a different language. Yeah, and then it went back to normal as soon as they came back in the room. And they were cutting my hair really quickly the whole time, and so quickly they snagged the scissors on my hair for a second and like pulled my hair really hard. And then when they finished, they literally go, all right, you're done, you gotta go, I've got a client coming, and like walk me out the door and close it behind me. And I essentially immediately start bawling, and I call my friend and I'm like, what the fuck? And I call my dad and I'm like, I'm coming home. Like, I'm sorry it's taking so long, but I need to have a breakdown first. And it's weird because I didn't think that they weren't threatening me with like scissors or something like that, but they are holding scissors next to my face, and there's all this threatening stuff around and the threatening music. And I just felt very uncomfortable and unsafe the entire time that I was there for that second appointment. And I wanted to post a review somewhere about it and be like, hey, this place is not chill. But my parents told me that they could sue me for defamation. So I have not said anything about it, because if they are gonna put a voodoo hex on me or something, who's gonna stop them from doing normal crazy stuff? And I don't really believe in like hexes or anything like that, but that's not the point though. That's not the point. The point is that their intention is bad, and that scares me. So if you guys want to know where it was, or if you have any guesses on where it was, let me know. But
it's probably down in this, girl.
Yeah. Also, if you want to see the haircut, the haircut is not like the end of the world, but it was not at all what I was going for. And I was more crying because I was freaked the fuck out than that the haircut was terrible, which it was bad. It was very uneven and very, anyway. Let me know what you think.
So today we're going to be diving into some more scary content, and we're going to be talking about 1999, the creepypasta. I first read this creepypasta when I was probably a freshman in high school, and it really stuck with me. I don't know what about it is so freaky, but I finally found it again today, and I'm going to share it and read it with you guys. Just a disclaimer, this is not my story. I did not write this. This is from creepypasta on the internet. I'm just going to be sharing it. So let's dive into part 1. The year is 1999. That sentence brings me back to my senior kindergarten class when I was 5 years old, where we used to read out the date on the blackboard every single day. The year 1999 exists as a stain in my mind, however, as a memory that will not go away no matter how I try to forget it. 1999 marked the year I lost my first tooth, my first time on a plane, and unfortunately, the early loss of my childhood innocence. That one memory that refuses to be wiped. It all started with that new, or old, TV. At that time, Pokemon was the latest fad to hit the school. Pokemon cards, games, stickers, and the most popular, the TV show. So, of course, every time I came home from school, I would stay glued to the TV until Pokemon came on at 5. The only problem was that my dad watched the news at 5:30, and Pokemon episodes were back to back, which meant I had to miss an episode every day, something I whined on and on about. My dad got tired of hearing me complain every day, and that must be why he went and bought another TV. My dad put the TV he bought in my room. Unfortunately, it was just an old small boob tube with rabbit ears even. It also only had 20 channels available, not including the channel Pokemon was on. I recall I didn't care though. I was just thrilled I had my own TV in my room. After surfing through the channels, I came to the conclusion that only channel 2, TVO Kids, was worth watching, so I watched that for a while. It wasn't for another few months until I discovered channel 21. One day in April, I was flipping through the channels trying to see if Pokemon was on. I pressed channel 21 into the remote, hoping there were more channels, and to my delight, there was. My dad was surprised too, but he let me watch it because it seemed to have a kids program on. The channel was called Calden Local 21, and later I found out it was indeed broadcasted from the very town of Calden, Ontario, a town very close to my own city. The shows I saw on Calden Local 21 looked poorly made, and I never understood what was going on in them half the time. However, as I grew up, every time I thought of that channel, I realized more and more how messed up the shows were, and I had to ask myself, what the fuck was I watching? The following is a list of shows and episodes I remember seeing on Calden Local 21. How I remember such detail even disturbs me, but I guess things like this stand out in your mind for a while. The channel only ran a few shows, probably because it was only operational between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. And that is the first part of 1999.
Still to this day, I believe that my husband was voodoo when we was in New Orleans. So me and him went to New Orleans a few years back, and we was on Bourbon Street, and an incident occurred. But before I tell y'all incident, let me just tell y'all what was going on throughout that night. So as we was walking, we saw a lot of things, women topless, it was just things that people say that goes on in New Orleans, but then you get to experience it for yourself. So that particular night, we were out there drinking, and when I tell y'all, I have never been so intoxicated like that night. Well, I'll take that back because I have been pretty intoxicated before. But so this woman comes up to my husband, well, my boyfriend at the time, and she was forcing the drinks. Like, they'll come and make you open your mouth and like just chug the drinks with their mouth. And I was just like, oh my goodness, I see and hear about this all the time. And then after that, she demanded like $40. She was like, $40. And my husband was like, first of all, you shoved that drink down my throat, blah, blah, blah. So we're not going to go into all that. But this is the scary part. Well, I won't say scary, but this is where it gets evil, okay? And you know, they say all different type of things about New Orleans. They say that it's deeply ritual into witchcraft, voodoo, hoodooism, all those type of things. She was like, you stay out of it. She said, I want your man. I want him. And she was pointing at him, and I was just like, look, let me just pay for it. This will just all be gone away, okay? Well, my husband was still upset at that time, so he was just like, no. So when we was walking away, my husband turned around and looked at the woman, because the woman was like, kind of had this hideous laugh, but she was still angry and mad. And he was like, she just did something like this. Like, it was like 2 fingers, and it was like this. And she was just like looking at him, shaking her head. Now, I'm not sure what could have happened. I'm really not sure what, is that a spell or what? But I promise you, at 3 o'clock that
You better go watch Color Purple.
That morning, he was throwing up sick, and he stopped throwing up 7 days later. He was throwing up the whole way home back to Mississippi, and he was not able to keep nothing down. He was just throwing up repeatedly. I took him to different hospitals. They was just like, nothing is wrong, and they will give him IV drips, and he'll be okay with the fluid. But soon as they took the IV out, he was just back. Blah, blah. I'm talking about, he was just throwing up so much. Make a long story short, it was literally 7 days after he stopped finished throwing up. So y'all tell me, what do y'all think about that New Orleans story?
Spooky story time. So I've been seeing a bunch of other creators come on here and talk about their experience whenever they visit New Orleans, and particularly the French Quarter. And as someone who used to live down there for quite a few years, I thought that I should share what happened to me. So for context, I've lived a little bit of everywhere. I am from North Carolina. I currently live in Lafayette, Louisiana now. But for quite a few years, I lived in either New Orleans, Metairie, Kenner, those areas. And back when I had first moved to New Orleans, like so many others, I used to go to Bourbon Street to go party. Now, this particular time wasn't my first time ever going on Bourbon Street. I have been on Bourbon Street so many times before, but this one particular time was way different. So I remember it being probably like 1 a.m. And if you know the culture of New Orleans, if you know the culture of just the French Quarter, bourbon, that is very, very early in the evening. And I remember it plain as day. It was around 1 a.m. and I was out with some friends and we were on crowded ass fucking Bourbon Street and I had to pee. I was not drunk. Okay. Again, it was 1 a.m. This is still pretty much like people, like the culture down there is just so different. The clubs and the bars, they stay open so late that people don't even leave their house until 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. Okay. So I was not drunk. I was not even fucking tipsy. And I was out with my friends and we were on Bourbon Street. I remember being on the corner of Bourbon and St. Louis and I had to pee so fucking bad. If you've ever been down there, you know how crowded Bourbon Street gets. You know that the lines to the bathrooms are like super long. So I tell my friend, I'm like, hey, we're in the corner of Bourbon and St. Louis. And I told my friend, I said, hey, I'm going to go to the bathroom. We're on this corner and I look down St. Louis. We're on literally on the corner and I see a bar on St. Louis. So automatically I'm judging the situation. I really have to fucking pee. And ladies, y'all know how it is when you have to pee so bad that it fucking hurts. I don't want to fucking pee on myself. I'm not about to walk through the crowd of Bourbon Street to then have to try to get into a bar and potentially have to stand in line on the bar. I'm like, I see another bar on St. Louis. There's few people there, you know, like on St. Louis, it's crowded, but it's definitely not as crowded as Bourbon. So I'm just going to go right there. So I tell my friend, I say, hey, I'm going to go to the bathroom. Are y'all going to be right here? She's like, oh, well, we might go back into wherever. And I'm like, okay, fine, I'll go find you. I'm just going to go to this bar right here. I'm going to go to the bathroom really fast. She's like, all right, cool. I go.
With this at Walmart.
Now, if y'all want to pull up Bourbon in St. Louis on your GPS,
dang, I wish I had the whole Freddy Krueger thing.
It was less than a minute of walking time until I would have ran into this bar. So I start walking. I look down. I'm about to pull out my ID because I have to get into the bar. And I remember walking and I get out my ID. And when I look up, because I'm like, I should be at the bar by now. The same fucking bar was now way down the street. And I see Dauphine. Okay. Now, again, look it up on your GPS, but there's no fucking way from the time that I was walking. I literally was not even walking for a full minute. And the bar that I saw had now moved way down the fucking street. Not only that, where all the people that was on St. Louis, the street was quiet. The street was dead. All of the people that I had just seen are all of a sudden gone. I turn around.
Let me tell y'all something. I hear a lot of people be like, when you go through New Orleans, it's like what you call it, y'all? Like you'll end up somewhere else. That's why they say in Mardi Gras, you don't you just go ahead and like they don't have it in on that down there. They have it somewhere else because it's like I forgot what you call it, but a lot of people experience it.
Behind me, and I can still see Bourbon Street, but it is way off in the distance. It was like it was like I had been walking for like 10 minutes or something, and I could see Bourbon Street, but it was way off in the distance to the point where the sounds of Bourbon Street sounded muffled. They sounded far away, and all of a sudden there was no one on St. Louis, the street that I was walking down. It was like time and space like didn't make sense. And so I'm just like, what the fuck? I still have to pee. And I just want y'all to understand that, like, no, I wasn't tripping. No, I wasn't drunk. And no, I wouldn't have fucking picked a bar that far away to walk to. And I felt like I was about to pee on myself, okay? Somehow this bar had moved. Somehow I am now way down the fucking street from Bourbon Street from where I was. And I just remember this chill coming across me. Not necessarily, it wasn't.
When you use the fake blood, cover when you have holes. It's nice. This is cheap. It's going to last you for a couple of hours. Afterwards, it's going to aggravate you. Okay, I'm just saying, you know.
Like I was cold, but it was like this chill of like, you in danger, girl. Like my spidey senses was tingling. And honestly, it had to be my ancestors or something just like watching over me, protecting me, because I just had this thought and this feeling of like, turn your ass around and run. And so that's exactly what I did. I turned my light skin ass around and I ran back to Bourbon Street. And what's so crazy is that I told you Bourbon Street was now in the fucking distance to where I couldn't even hear the noises. When I decided to go back, I was back on Bourbon Street like that. Like I ran a little bit and I'm back.
What did I do with my tie?
To this day, I cannot
put the
explain
wrong
what
tie
happened.
Oh no!
Whenever
No more
I
fail.
tell people about it, especially like people who are local to New Orleans, they all say the same thing. Like, oh yeah, like you shouldn't even be in the French Quarter that late at night. They got some shit out there. And I'm not saying any of this to like discourage anybody from like visiting New Orleans. New Orleans is a beautiful place.
I don't know if y'all can see it, but here you go. I will take a photo and put it in the reel or put it wherever, but this is finished product. I think I need to tear my thing, the background off. I don't know how to do that. But yeah, this is what it looked like. I'll post it in the stories. But yeah. Did it take me an hour? Pretty much, because after we get off, I'm washing this off. I know, I wish I had some contacts. I have some lashes. But I don't know where I put them at. But I do have some contacts. No, I don't have no contacts. Dang, I wish I had some contacts. But yeah, I'm going to post. I'm going to let this last part of her video play. And then I'm going to get off and I'm going to post a picture. Because I want y'all to see it.
Full of rich culture, full of history, Black history, Spanish history, French history, and also fucking supernatural history, okay? There is a reason why all of these like supernatural shows are set in New Orleans. Because that shit is real.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it was a portal or a vortex, but I was not about to stick around long enough to find out. So again, not trying to discourage you from visiting. I am trying to encourage you that if you're going to be in the French Quarter, don't be walking alone. Make sure you're with somebody, because apparently it's easy for you to get lost.
Hello, TikTok.
Shane line, I heard that too.
Here.
Shane line, I heard that too. It is not what y'all think. Not nobody that drink blood. It's people that take your energy. They suck your energy. And I was listening to a guy. He was like, "Yeah, we're vampires. We don't do that. We just suck your energy dry."
With another story time about the time I met a vampire. I tried to do this story the other day on live and it just did not work out. But anyway, I just decided to record a video. People have been asking me about the story, so here it goes. I'm a rideshare driver in New Orleans. So, of course, I encounter all types of people from all walks of life. So one particular ride was very interesting. Now, this was a couple of years ago when this occurred. And I'm going to tell you, for the most part, I remember what she said. I do not remember what she looked like. And there are some details that
I'm on brush. I'm finna make this out
when the experience was over.
Just so
like I had completely forgotten some things. But anyway,
blood.
So I'm riding, pick up this passenger.
Girl, go look it up. He
and
on
I
TikTok.
remember our
He on TikTok
conversation. And the craziest thing is I can remember her voice. I can, and even as I'm telling you this, I can hear her voice in my head.
This look 10 times better.
And I can even picture like this part of her face around her mouth, her lips. I can see them moving as she's talking to me. And I remember her hand being on my shoulder. And I remember what it felt like when she touched me. But a lot of other stuff, it's like was just completely erased.
See?
So I pick her up, and
ladies and gentlemen, most of y'all sleeping with these vampires, energy vampires, and people that do stuff to make you forget. You don't even know it. I'm trying to tell you. You will never know it.
I do know that we were having conversation. I talked to many of my passengers. And she is telling me I have really great energy. So I told her thank you. You know, she asked me some things about myself, you know, nothing too private, nothing with too many details. So, you know, I just kind of gave her some general info. And I remember her telling me that she wasn't from here. That I do remember. And then she proceeds to tell me how much she loved New Orleans, how much she loved being there, living there, et cetera, et cetera. I do recall asking her where she was from originally, and all she told me was that she was from very far away. And it's funny again because I'm hearing her voice in my head as this is weird. And I've never shared this story with anybody, so TikTok, you're getting it first.
I thought I was lying. It's a man on here on TikTok. Y'all gonna look him up. He'll tell you what they really like.
He's touched my shoulder at one point. And this is where things got
all right, hold on. Let me
really
make
strange.
Again real quick, y'all. Give me a minute.
She touched my shoulder. And I felt like I just froze. And even as I'm talking to you right now, I can distinctly remember that feeling of feeling frozen. And my hands were on the wheel because I could see my hands on the wheel. The car wasn't moving. And being frozen in that moment, I hear her voice, but not like I'm here talking to you. In my head, I hear her voice telling me, don't be scared. And she's not going to harm.
Devil is a liar.
And then after that, we're moving again. And I remember kind of turning and looking like that. And she was sitting back in the seat and her hands were on her lap. And I said, what did you do to me? And she just smiled. And she says, I just leached some of your energy. And I said, what? She said, I just leached some of your energy. She said, this is going to sound crazy, but I can assure you it's true. I'm a vampire. She said, but I'm not the type of vampire that you've been taught about in books and movies. She said, those types of vampires exist, but they're very rare these days. I'm a vampire that feeds off of energy. And all I have to do is touch you to get it. She said, New Orleans is a great place for her and her kind to exist. And that there are quite a few members of their tribe, is what she called them. I think I remember this part of our conversation so significantly because I believe when she touched me, she implanted something in my mind, whether you want to call it a memory or a thought or an idea. But she gave me something of herself, probably, to where I can recall this portion of the interaction between us. Maybe she knew that eventually I would share the story with others and therefore maybe make it a little bit more acceptable for them to start, for her and her members to start presenting themselves.
Hey, Angel.
I don't know. I don't know why she even chose me for this. But she told me that there are vampires that survive off of good energy. There are vampires that survive off of bad energy. There are vampires that survive off of sexual energy. And there are vampires that survive off of blood. And New Orleans is the only place in the world where you can find members of all four of those vampire tribes. Maybe she wanted me to remember this portion of it as a warning. I don't know. But I know she wasn't lying just because of how I felt. And even now, it's crazy because I still feel like her hand is on my shoulder, which makes me wonder, when she touched me, did she create some type of psychic connection between the two of us? I don't know, but I think I need to end this. Anyway, I don't remember where I dropped her off at. I don't even remember dropping her off. The next thing I remember doing clearly was being in a part of town that I didn't remember how I even got there. And it was like 2 hours later. And I was just in a parking lot. Just in a parking lot. And I know it sounds weird, y'all. I think I probably shouldn't even recorded this. I probably shouldn't even be talking. I probably should not even be talking about this. I shouldn't.
There's not a day go by that I don't have some type of encounter with a ghost, spirit, whatever you want to call it. So here go today's episode of me having an encounter with a ghost. I goes to a patient room to bring back their belongings because they just got out of surgery. As I go in the room, the man kind of sleeps, so I'm like, hey, look, I need you to sign this form so I can get your belongings back, and it just verify that you got your stuff back from our department. So as I'm walking out the room, the water in the zinc turned on, hard down, faucet running, water just running. I'm like, okay, I guess it's my encounter for the day. As I'm walking out, water stopped. Nobody touched the water just started running on its own.
Child, I would have ran.
I'm asking me, do we got vampires here? Bitch, we got mosquitoes here that'll pull your motherfucking sock down and bite your ankles. Them hoes will pull your lace front back and bite the glue off your head. Yeah, we vampires, bitch, mosquitoes.
Someone wanted to share this unfortunate experience they had at a New Orleans cemetery. I am back with another spooky story. We'll call the person who submitted this story Laura. Now, Laura has always been into the dark and mysterious stuff. As she says, she has a gothic aesthetic. She loves skulls, skeletons, blood, gory things, and scary movies. She's always been open to something paranormal happening to her, but despite her aesthetic, she'd never actually gone through anything. But she said, fast forward a few years ago, she said she was seeing this guy who had this idea. Now, she said that this is something that she's always thought about doing, that she's always wanted to do, but she didn't know anybody else who would be into that. So she never brought it up. But she's seeing this guy, and he brings up this idea to her. And the idea being to get intimate in the cemetery. Okay, I'm not one to kink.
Don't ever do that. I told someone I know not to do that. They did that, and it did not end well.
So she says, so they made it like a whole thing. They were gonna have a picnic in the cemetery after hours. And then, I'm sorry guys, I'm trying because, what the fuck? They were having a vampire themed night. So they bought cups, plates, red blankets, candles,
Honey.
and drinks and food that resembles, like and body parts. That's a cute gothic date, I feel. So they link up, they get to the cemetery, and they lay their stuff out. Or in this open area, there were graves around them, and they start their dinner. Now, she said from the moment...
After this, I am washing this off. You can leave it on if you would like. If you do it, but it started to irritate me.
She walked into the cemetery, she could feel the energy difference, as the energy in the cemetery felt so thick and damn near suffocating. There was this immense feeling that they were being watched, as they would hear footsteps behind them, but when they would turn around, there would be nothing there. They would hear weird animals, sounds that they've never heard before. However, this seemed to be feeding into their aesthetic. Although it was a bit unsettling, her and her boyfriend were there for each other. So dinner happens, and then eventually the bada boom, bada bing, thank you, ma'am. She said when they first got into it, without too many details, it got really cold. But temperatures changes, so, they keep going. And while they're doing it, dude behind her starts hyperventilating, like he can't breathe. The air has become so thick around him that they have to stop. So boom, he stops to catch his breath. At this point, the energy just starts to intensify. So now they're really hearing animals rushing towards them. Now at this point, they're hearing voices, as if someone is running past them and whispering something, but they can't quite make out what the fuck is being said. In that moment, they decided that was enough thrill for the night. It's time to go home. So they pack up their stuff and they head towards the exit. One small problem though. They couldn't find the exit. Laura says now she knew exactly where she came in from in the cemetery. And the car that they drove to the cemetery in is not too far, so where's the exit? Laura said they walked back towards the direction that they thought they came in from, and there was no exit. So they walk all the way back, no exit. They're literally looking up and down. Now they're walking cute distances, no exit. So they're like, you know what, it's dark outside. Maybe the red wine has really gotten to them. So they decided to press the car because they weren't parked far from the cemetery, so they should hear the car beep. So they press the key and they hear the car right outside beeping. So they're like, okay, we're close. They're trying to walk towards the sound of the car, and it doesn't sound like they're getting any closer. Laura says at this point, they start freaking out. They were stuck in the cemetery while being haunted by God knows what. When they went to try to call for help, their phones would not work, and they had no idea how long they were stuck in there for, but they knew it felt like forever. When finally, from a distance, her boyfriend sees somebody, and he's flagging this man down, and this man walks up to them and says, what are you guys doing here? You shouldn't be in here at this time. And they express to him that they got lost and that they just need to find their way out. And the guy says, what do you mean? The exit is right there. And they looked over, and evidently, the exit was right there. Laura said they made a run for that exit, fearing that it might just disappear again. They got out, they looked behind them, thinking the guy is probably looking at them crazy, and when they looked back, there was no one in there. They had enough spooks for the night. They decided that was enough. They got in the car, went home, and didn't think about it. If you want to hear about the nightmares that she and her boyfriend would have after the fact, that's another story time for another day.
Child, that's too much. All right, so here you guys go. I am going to go wash this off. Like I say, you can get these products from Walmart. Go get you some Elmer glue, however you would like. It's time consuming. I just did a little something. Now I'll be back with more tea and other things to talk about. I will see you guys in next. I'm going to take me a nap and take this off. I'll see y'all later. Bye.
It's in the reach of my arms, the span of my hips, the stride of my step, the curl of my lips. I'm a woman, phenomenally.
Birds singing in the dead of night.